Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lead Like a Boss. I've got an amazing guest for you today. It's Tia Cristy and Tips from Tia. So you're going to love this. So stay tuned and let's get into it. Tia, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I know it took us a while to get this booked up, but I'm so glad we're finally doing it.
Oh, it's great, George. So thankful to be here.
So Tia has an amazing background. She's done a lot of wonderful things, but wait till you hear about the hook that got her into what she's doing now. It's going to blow you away. So before we begin and get into tips from Tia, I know you've had an amazing background. What got you here? How did you decide to get into this line of work?
Well, it was a journey and a great road. Love a little bit of a rough road.
Aren't they all?
It really is. It's some of the darkest moments that make the brightest future. So,
I
I
love that.
was
That's a great expression. I love it.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it was very trying period. I was in radio for a very long time. You know, I've been a radio personality, I say, from the womb, basically. And so when I came out, I was talking nonstop, and what a wonderful life that I've had, being able to travel across the country, doing radio for
What were
lots
you
of
doing on
different
radio?
markets.
What was your topic of, what was your...
Well, I was always jock kind of with top 40 pop, alternative rock. I did a hip hop station for a little bit. I
Okay, so it
made
wasn't like a
sure
talk
that
show, or you were a DJ.
no, yeah, DJ.
Did you get
Yeah.
to meet any great stars? You must have.
Oh, all the time, all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. Fantastic people, and yeah, it was really wonderful to be able to be in that element, um, and get to know people's journeys, how they make it to where they get to as well. Everybody thinks it just happens one day, but it is. It's a lot of hard work and dedication.
But it must have been fast paced, I would imagine.
It was. We definitely had a lot of fast pace. I started out as a club DJ, believe it or not. I
Oh,
was
wow.
spinning in nightclubs, and that was cool. I was only a teenager when that was happening, so kind of not supposed to be doing it, but um, I was good at what I did, so they snuck me in the back door, and
Okay, so
then
you're not doing radio anymore, though. You're not doing
well,
radio.
no, but I say I took a sabbatical instead of retiring. It's one
Really
of those
long
things.
sabbatical.
Yeah, yeah. I figure with the pandemic, things got really crazy, and with everything being up in the air, not knowing exactly how the virus worked, I figured it was best to pivot in my career and um, really, really crack down on my vision of what I've been trying to do. So I guess it was back in 2012. I ended up getting sick. I bought a new house and I got sick from the house. It took 6 months to
Okay,
figure out I
whoa,
had.
hold on. Yeah, hold on. Because that's the story. We talked about this. Okay, so most people, when they get sick, they don't immediately say, "Oh, it's the house that's making me sick."
Right.
There's a story there, isn't there?
There is, and it took time. Obviously, it wasn't like overnight I got sick. It was, I started to have these symptoms that were quite odd. Brain fog, fatigue. My hair started falling out, and I don't know if you can see, but I got a lot of it. So, when that happened, it was kind of like, what is going on here? And then I started having motor skill issues. Like, I couldn't sign my name anymore. I was having trouble with my times tables, different things like that. And it was very, very scary.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when these types of things happen, I mean, there's the doctor's appointments and all the rest of it. How did you go from that to figuring out it was the house that was making you sick?
Well, thank God I had a very awesome doctor who liked to hear what I had to say. I recommend that to people. Make sure that you can talk to your doctors. It's your body, so you need to be fully aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
But also, there's a nerd in me, George. I don't know if you know this, but I love reading medical journals for fun and different things like that.
Woohoo!
So Yeah, so it was one of those moments where I had to start thinking outside the box. They couldn't figure out what was going on, because it's so rare. Only a very small percentage of people are capable of getting mold toxicity poisoning to that degree. Um,
Mold toxicity poisoning. That's what it was.
yes. So the house was beautiful. It was only a couple years old, so nobody thought that it was going to be the house, but it turned out it was the house. And um,
How long were
once I
you battling with this?
I would say total of a year in regards to figuring out what it was, to getting back to a decent health.
That must have taken a
But
hell of a toll on your career, on your relationships,
everything,
everything.
everything. Yeah. And weird part is that even once you get a hold of it, you have to be so much more careful after the fact because you become so susceptible to it.
Yeah, you're very
So
sensitive, right?
yeah, and it's so bizarre. Like, one of the things that I had to stop doing was taking fish oil, because fish oil is the same size molecule as mold.
Oh my.
And so the body learns to allow the molecule of fish oil to pass through. And because it's the same size, it doesn't detect exactly what's going on. It let the mold kind of pass through. So
Oh my.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it was
so
it was
I mean,
bizarre.
I know there's some people in the audience now are saying, "What the heck does this have to do with business, George?" I mean,
I
you're getting
know.
so off track, you know. But I know that there is a segue to this story, and this
There
is
really
what happens with most people that I've ever come across in business who are passionate about what they do. It's an outcropping or a byproduct of a trauma that they've lived with in their own lives, right? And I know that that's part of your story. So you got sick, you dealt with it, then what happened?
so I'm very proactive, as you could probably guess by now. And what I started to do was exercises to help retrain my brain, and my motor skills and different things like that. And one of the things I always knew was tips. I knew how to get a stain out of this, or how to MacGyver. My friends would call me MacGyver as a kid. So how to MacGyver that. And I remember thinking, okay, if I'm getting this, why not write it down and try to remember it? First off, it'll help me with my motor skills, writing or typing or whatever. So I ended up I ended up getting a website because it was like 99 cents for a website back when I started. And I started typing everything out. And honestly, I didn't think anybody would read it. I was like, yeah, maybe my mom will check it out or something.
Was this something you were
But
doing to kind of like keep yourself busy while you're recuperating?
well, not even just busy, but it was, like, I was also taking quizzes, like elementary school quizzes on, like, math and spelling and things like that. So it was all, like, to help work the brain. So I really wouldn't even say it was something to keep me busy. It was just some kind of therapy that I was using for
So
myself.
you decided to share
And
your therapy techniques and what you were doing with the world in the hopes of what?
I wasn't even sharing the therapy. I was just sharing the tips that I knew. Um, Because first off, I didn't wanna forget them, they're that good. Like, there's so many good tips out there, and also, I was really frustrated by the fact that, there's so many wrong answers out there. Like, if you
Oh
were to
yeah.
Google something, how bad it was. And I think my breaking point really was when somebody had asked me, "How do I get a red wine stain out of the carpet?" And
Okay.
somebody else chimed in and said, "Oh, that's easy. You just pour white wine on it." And I was like, "Oh, no, no." So I went to, the search engine, I typed it in, and it was the first thing that popped up. Use
White
white wine
wine.
to get rid of. And I was like, that is not good, not good. So I wanted to make
Let me guess that that advice was promoted by someone who sells white wine, I would bet, no?
right, yes, probably, probably. But I thought this is terrible, man. People are getting bad information out there left and right. So it kind of really kind of solidified the fact that, yeah, this should be on the web. Um, but within 6 months, like I said, I wasn't really expecting anything. Maybe my mom to read it for me to have a better brain. But all of a sudden, like, it kind of blew up, and that was exciting. I was getting letters from all over the world saying, "Thank you so much for your help." So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one thing to get information, but it's another to get a tip. And a tip comes from someone who has tried it and knows that it works, right? Whereas information is like, here's information, do with it as you will. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, oh, too bad. I have nothing invested. But when you give it yourself directly, you're giving it because you think it can help, right? You've tried it out, you got it. Okay, so you told me that. Talk to me about some of the numbers that your tips from Tia had grown to over.
Okay, so well, currently we have 120,000 subscribers and followers, which is great. I appreciate everybody, and also we have surpassed over 1 million unique visitors, which is pretty cool.
And that's because you just spent all kinds of money on your big marketing machine, right?
Didn't spend anything.
So the reason why I mentioned that is because there's so many people out there who are aggressively selling. I was going to say schlocking, but aggressively selling, online marketing tools and online marketing techniques and blah blah blah. And really, it boils down to giving value, giving lots and lots of value. Yeah, of course, you got to follow up and you got to have a mechanism for capturing these people for sure. But really, the bottom line is just give a lot of value and be of service to your audience. And I think that your success illustrates that perfectly.
Thank you. Yes, and I do believe that. I think that um I yes, it takes some money to make money and all that kind of thing, but to get the credibility and to get the following, that's just giving valuable advice. And that is being a trusted source. And that's what I wanted to bring to people. I've been very blessed in the fact that I'm a trusted soul. People, I'll sit down next to you and next thing you know, you'll be like telling me everything. But it's just, it's one of those things where it's my superpower. Everybody's born with a superpower, and I think that mine is being able to help people in these kind of out of the box ways, because obviously it's not something that you can learn in school. Like there's no lifestyle tips courses that people can take. And who knows, maybe one day, maybe I'll start that or something. But
And sifting through millions of Google articles is really
it
not,
really is.
people's, cup of tea. I would imagine. All right, so talk to me about the subjects that Tips from Tia covers, because I know it's not just about taking wine stains out of carpets.
Right. Yeah. So we dive into everything. We do health, beauty, lifestyle, home, DIY, mental health, and a bit taboo when we started it, but I think very much appreciated is that we also look at sexual health.
Okay.
Um, so that was a big decision for me to do that because I didn't want to be flagged or associated with anything that was on the raunchy side. But there's so much bad information out there,
Yeah,
and
like,
I
because
didn't want.
nobody's getting information from porn out there. Nobody ever gets that. I mean, it's all from very, well documented sources. I mean,
Right.
it's ridiculous how people think that when someone is trying to have an honest and real conversation about sex and sexuality, that all of a sudden it goes to that place when it's so important that everyone, I was going to say young people, but not just young people, everyone can
Everyone.
use more information on sexuality. And it's 2023 and we still do the taboo thing. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't understand it myself, but It's definitely something that we need to stop doing as a society. And I say this as a coach because, we talk to our clients about, being holistic, right? And try running your business if your marriage is falling apart, or try running your business if you're fighting with your spouse all the time. I mean, it's not easy. And being able to have a good relationship, and I think most people who understand relationships know that sex is a component of a good relationship, right? I mean, if one part's not working, the other part's not going to work well either. So I take my hat
Right.
off to you that you're addressing that subject in an intelligent
Thank you.
adult way.
Yes, thank you. And we always throw out the disclaimer, like I'm not a doctor, but I make
I
sure
play one on
that
TV.
I play one on TV. Yeah, but I'm very lucky also to have specialists and different kinds of doctors kind of at at my disposal where I can reach out to them. And like I have one specialist who is a sexual specialist, and I just say, what do people need to know today? And then I get all the statistics and everything that I need to know, and I make sure that I bring it to the readers, because I think it is so important to know this kind of information. Like you said, it's not just young people. I mean, when the STD rate is skyrocketing in the seniors community, like something was amiss here. So we need to figure that out.
And I'm sure you've probably gotten a lot of amazing feedback, responses, experiences from the people that you've touched over the years, in knowing that you've helped people to, to improve their lives somewhere, or at least point them in a direction where they can get more information that they can address, whatever's going on is very gratifying.
Yes, I love that. That's obviously that I would say is my favorite part. I remember the most impactful ones still to this day. And like one of the most impactful ones was this woman from the UK
Mm-hmm.
wrote me to tell me that I changed her life forever, because she had a toddler who was suffering from sugar rushes and having temper tantrums. And she was like, I could never go to a birthday party. And I put up a tip, and it was just if your child is experiencing a sugar rush, then you give them a glass of milk, and the sugar from the milk actually combats the sugar from, the cookie or whatever, and it'll level them out. They'll end up leveling. And she was like, I tried it. It worked. It was amazing. And she was like, I thank you. I thank you so much. So like that's cool.
Where were
Like
you when my
how
kids were 2 and 3? Like, where were you?
I know, I'm sorry. But, society has already told us. I mean, they're cliches. It's milk and cookies. There's reasons for these things.
Oh, I never thought
And
about that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting. Hmm.
and I'm just bringing it back to light. I think that's what it is. You hear about these traditions, these ancient traditions that get lost because, people just stop teaching their lineage. And um I think some of these things are part of that. So
Mm.
just reteaching people.
Yeah, I think there's this tendency to think that, oh, if it's old, it's not good anymore, or we focus on technology and not so much on folk wisdom, because that's what I'm hearing you talk about. I'm hearing you talk about folk wisdom. And yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I really like
Yeah.
it.
And of course we gotta modernize, because, technology has changed on us so much. Where there's some like really cool things out there nowadays to do as well. But for years my slogan was your grandmother's tip with more appeal. So it really is things that I'm bringing back, along with things of today that just make life easier, because stress is a big deal. I mean, it's an epidemic that the world is seeing, and we don't need to be stressed out all the time over everything. It's very,
I
very important.
watched your TED talk, by the way, on stress. Very, very informative. I'm gonna
Thank you.
throw up a link on this to for folks to be able to check it out. One of the things that I learned, and I a lot about stress, I didn't understand all of the different physiological impacts of stress? You know, the obvious ones, but you touched on quite a few that weren't so obvious. And I think that it's really important that people understand, you know, the effects of stress, and the fact that you don't have to like opt out of life. You don't have to opt out of having an impactful life in order to avoid stress. You can have you know, a highly functioning life, you know, business, you know, etc. Really fully engaged in life, and do so without all of the negative effects of stress.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it really comes back down to like the amygdala and that fight or flight and learning how to use that properly. And, you know, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you understand things get stressful. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just that's the way it works. And I use meditation on a daily basis. I mean, it's been proven, and you know, thank you for watching the TED Talk. But yeah, it's been proven. 4 minutes a day can change a person's life. And you know, we talk about the number one cause of death, and honestly, we give it different names, but it really comes down to stress.
To
And
a large degree. So, okay, you mentioned meditation. What other tips do you have for helping stressed out entrepreneurs to bring their cortisol levels down?
I think that people need to really figure out what kind of stressor they are, as I talk about in the TED Talk, because meditation is amazing. And like I said, everybody should be meditating. But a lot of people sit there and they're like, well, I can't do that. You know, sit there for like 4 minutes just within myself. That's crazy. I get that because I couldn't do it. You know, I was having trouble just kind of sitting there and being. But what I found was remarkable was movement meditation. And I had never
Meditation? Okay.
and I had never heard of it before.
And like walking
You know, I
meditation,
started
things like that?
what is it? I'm sorry.
Like walking meditation?
Yeah, walking, tapping, breathing, you know, the marching, like I love the marching. That's like one of my favorites. Um, but yeah, it's incredible the difference that that can make because I actually go completely deep mentally when I'm doing that. Like there's nothing distracting me. I mean, it's really amazing to be able to find the source of meditation that you can use that will help. And I know days when I don't do it. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get my session in today." Because I feel
You
it.
mentioned like type of stressors. So am I understanding that different people stress differently? Like they have different ways that they manifest their stress. Is that what you're saying, or what do you mean by
I
that?
I I would say how they handle it is
Okay.
more important because there's silent stressors and then there's the frazzler. And most people aren't exactly sure what they are until they start hearing the definition and they're like, oh crap, that's me. That's me. I know. So figuring out which type of stressor is really important because you will respond to the stress relieving techniques a whole lot better if you're using the proper ones.
Okay. Okay, I understand. All right, excellent. So how do we identify? Like, do you have any type of tools that you use, or you mentioned there's questions or descriptions. So when you look at those descriptions, you self-identify, and then once you know which one you are, you can figure out which is the best way to deal with it.
Yes, yes. And I think it is very easy to self-identify. Um, Me, I'm a silent stressor. You know, I tend to sit in silence when I get super stressed out, where other people are the frazzler, which is, you know, somebody
Yeah,
that's
that's
got
cool.
to.
I remember it from the TED Talk, but I don't remember the definition. What is a frazzler?
Okay, so the frazzler is very illustrated in how very animated in how they are. A lot of times they have to share their stress with other people.
Okay.
Um, they stress out everyone else around them
You
because
spread the
they're
love. You spread the love.
yes, yes.
Okay.
As I everybody laughs because I call it stress vomiting. Like, don't stress vomit on me. Yeah, I think that I think that knowing what type of stressor you are is going to allow you to handle it better. And I do on the TED Talk, I also give tips on how you should handle stress if you're a frazzler or a silent stressor. So, it's definitely, thank you. It's definitely worth a watch, I would say.
Okay, so all right, so that I love it, and we're going to put the link up to that, and maybe that's a topic for another conversation here on Lead Like a Boss, because everybody knows that entrepreneurs deal with a lot of stress, and knowing how to cope with it effectively, helping their teams to deal with stress, because teams, it's not just the boss, it's just not just the founder or the owners, everybody in the team
Oh,
can
yeah.
you know
And it's a
really
trickle down effect too. I think a lot of people don't realize that. If you're in a bad mood, you are more susceptible to putting other people in a bad mood. It's the same thing when you're stressed out. If you're the boss and you're stressed out and you're telling your employees like it has to be done now, you just stress them out. So it's learning how to take that deep breath. And I do tell people, set a timer to remember to breathe once an hour because
And
people are
God
doing it
knows the
wrong.
pandemic had nothing to do with, raising people's overall stress levels at all.
Oh, no, no, no.
And people forget about that. I don't know how many people I talk to in business, and the attitude is like, oh well, it's over. The pandemic is over. Well,
That is,
it's not over. I mean,
no,
the effects of it are still there, and will be
right.
for quite some time to come. You know, it's
Yes.
it's it's
And
very
we're not losing people as fast as we were to it, but yeah, no, I would say it's far from over, but um the fear, we can let go of the fear, I think, a lot more than what we had in the beginning, obviously. But yeah, I think that it is important to stay aware of your surroundings. But one thing, if I can give advice to anybody, is stop digesting the news at the level that they are digesting, because
I'll tell you that that's an amazing thing. I haven't been a news junkie in, it must be getting close to 5-10 years now, and um, it's very common that people say, "Oh well, you have to be in business, to be you need to be in the know, right? If you're not in the know, you're gonna miss out on opportunities." And every high performing individual that I know does not feed into the news cycles.
yeah,
You know,
because they I think a lot of the news is kind of whatever the trend is for them, whatever gets them the ratings, being in the media. I know how important ratings are. So, I think that I get the level that that's your livelihood. So you have to pay attention to that. But like right now, all they're doing is really thriving on driving that fear and division with people, and I think that's not the real world. And I think if people lift their heads up from, the TV or their news outlet or whatever, they will realize that that's not the way that we function as humans. We need that companionship. We need to feel connected. How bizarre. I think you know this, but it is proven that if a baby is born and is in touch within the first 24 hours, it will die.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're faced with this pandemic coming in, and they're like, don't even talk to people, don't breathe at them, don't do anything. So when you look at somebody who lost all human contact altogether for 2 years, just imagine the mental strain that that put on people.
Yeah.
I mean, to not be able to hug your loved ones or, be able to just hold somebody's hand. They
Be
say
locked in the
people
basement for 2 weeks and have to talk to your spouse on the phone.
horrible, horrible. We are supposed to be, as humans, we are supposed to be lovingly touched 11 times a day at least, they say,
Wow.
for yeah, for all the chemicals to fire properly in the brain. And I don't know many people since pandemic that have that kind of interaction anymore. And Sadly, sadly, I could go on, but I feel like that even started before the pandemic, where people
Oh yeah.
had to really be aware of, this is my space, and you can't put an appreciative hand on somebody's shoulder anymore, and that kind of thing. So, it's just bizarre. So, if anything, I tell people, pull your head away from the news as much as you possibly can, because it's a
Yeah.
different world out there.
Yeah. And I know from watching a professor of neuropsychology, and he was talking about the different types of endorphins, I believe, that are um, excreted by the brain when you have physical contact, and how those hormones are just as powerful as oxytocin, which is like the love hormone, right? Like the romantic love hormone, the thing that gets you high when you're brand new in a relationship. But after that wears off, which it does wear off, because you wouldn't be able to survive if you were always on that stuff. You'd never get anything done. But later on, it's the other one that comes from uh, friendly human contact, loving human contact, not necessarily sexual human contact, but just loving human contact, which actually has the same does the same stimulation to your brain, which affects so much of your health, so much of your physical and mental health outcomes from that. So it's really powerful. It's very important for people to understand that.
Right, and it isn't sexual contact, because that releases different neurotransmitters, than just a loving touch or an appreciative touch. And I don't think people understand that, and that's
Oh,
why, things have gone to the level that they have. But two completely different chemicals are released when that happens. So it's not about the sexual contact, and you know,
yeah,
we need to give some loving high fives again, something.
yeah. I mean, just a hug, right? I mean, people
Yes.
underestimate the power of a hug, right? And it's too bad that, well, one, there's the whole sexual harassment component, but
Hmm.
then of course there's the pandemic component, and both of those things have kind of conspired to make people like stop connecting, right? And it creates
Right.
this kind of taboo, this bad, you know, kind of energy around it, and that's not what we need. We need the opposite.
Right. As they say, we need love. We need love.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important that we're having this conversation in the context of a business conversation, because we know from statistics that if your workforce is happy, and happy just doesn't mean, oh, I hit my numbers. Happy means you have a happy life, you feel content, you will be more productive at work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that is important. And what a wonderful time that we are in, because bosses are now understanding that their employees have to have a happy life balance, work life balance, which wasn't cared upon about for so long. And now they're saying, no, I want to know what you do outside of work. I want you to be happy. And strangely enough, it came after the absurdness of social media getting people fired because they had a life outside of work. And now bosses are saying, no, I do want to know what your passions are outside of work. And I think that's really important, because you don't work to live. Well, how do they say? Like, it's
You
not
don't live to
supposed to
work,
be.
you work to live.
Right, right. Don't live to work, work to live. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
really the only thing that helps. Having a passion outside of work is really one of the things that helps people to endure jobs that maybe aren't as emotionally stimulating or intellectually stimulating as they could be. And I think it's important that employers understand that they have to nurture those things, right? People's hobbies, people's passion. And you look at, I believe it's UPS. I don't know if they still do it, but they were passionate about helping athletes. Like if you work for UPS and you want to go to the Olympics, or you were doing some other high level athletic type of work, I mean, they were actively supporting you so that you could do that. And I think that's a great idea.
Yes, I agree 100%. I think that that really encompasses everything that they've been trying to do too, like with schools trying to get kids more physical and stop the obesity and the starvation and because people don't understand sometimes, yeah, there's an obesity problem, but then on the other side of the spectrum, there is a weight disorder problem where these kids are ending up with anorexia and bulimia and all these different things. So, basically giving them programs to help them find a really good balance is super important. And through athletics and different electives, I think it's super important to also keep them in schools. They have to be considered.
Yeah, and at work, I mean, I know of companies in the Orient where they incentivize their executives to be in gyms. They put health like sports facilities right in their offices, like not just a little weight machine. I mean, swimming pools, like the whole bit. They make a big investment because they understand that if the executive is physically fit, that they will also they will tend to be more mentally fit, and that's
Right.
they consider that to be a competitive advantage, and I think that that's
Hmm.
true. So
I agree.
yeah,
And
there.
the treadmill desk. People
I
are
have a
investing in the
stand-up desk.
treadmill desk.
I have a stand-up desk. I don't know if I'm ready for putting a treadmill underneath my stand-up desk. I'll think about it, but I've got the stand-up desk.
Very
So
good.
Tia, how do people find you? What's going on? Is there something that we can point people towards with regards to you got something coming up? Is there
Sure.
activities happening? Another TED Talk maybe?
Thank you. Yes. Well, thank you. I am part of She Talks
Oh,
this year, which has been amazing. She Talks is basically empowering women, and they're doing this program, Boots to Heels, which is for vets that are
okay.
coming out of the military and transitioning back into the workforce. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a cool concept. So, I was asked to come and speak and talk about stress and all that stuff. So, I'll be doing that in Houston on March 11th.
Oh boy.
So,
Good.
yeah,
We'll put a
anybody in
link
the
to the
area.
we'll put a link to it on the site when it goes to air.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if anybody who's watching this comes out or wants to take part, I'm gonna have some swag there. So we'll do like 5% off. Just mention George and
Lead like a
we'll make
boss.
sure,
All right. I love it.
yes, we'll make sure that they get some discounts on that stuff. So
And where do we find you? Are you primarily on social media? Where do people find you?
yes, social media is always a great place to find me. Tips from Tia, all one word. And then you can always reach out to me through tipsfromtia.com.
Okay.
Um, I have an email associated with that. So, any
Okay.
questions or anything like that, any tips they want to share.
All right. So I know we're coming up on Valentine's Day, and it's going to be big. And can you give us maybe one or two? So let's say a tip for him and a tip for her, for example, on how
Mhm.
to make this Valentine's Day not so ordinary.
Okay. Well, I would say that also thinking outside the box. A lot of people, they think that they have to go and spend a lot of money, and the fact is, of course, men will always spend more money on Valentine's Day than women. It's just the facts of it. But going with some kind of like home kind of DIY Valentine's Day things are pretty cool. So like one time I bought an alphabet soup, the pasta, the dried pasta,
Yeah.
and I took out all the letters and I dyed with food coloring a whole phrase or whatever. And then I put it in a jar, shook it up, and then it becomes a little game. They got to find the letters and
I
they
love it.
can piece out the puzzle together. So that's kind of cute. And then one thing that I really think for men, they need to realize that Valentine's Day is a special day to a lot of ladies. It is, but I think that what people need to remember, because there's a lot of scary statistics. If I can just dive in real quick with that. Um, March, #1 sales for pregnancy tests. Always, always,
Wow.
always, always.
Wow.
Um, Also, it is
Gosh.
number one, the number one search usually in March on the internet is STDs.
Mm.
So even though men spend a lot more money on Valentine's Day, one thing that actually is not very high is condom sales. They only go up by 20%.
Ouch.
So if I could say, I think you got to remember to practice safety. Safety is so important because, we all have temporary insanity every once in a while, but, um, that can last a lifetime. So make sure that you invest wisely on this Valentine's Day. So important.
And I appreciate that. It's such great advice. And but I think there's also a lot of statistics on the emotional stress, because we're talking about stress too, right? Around things like Valentine's Day, like there's this pressure to to meet some sort of crazy expectation. It's like the way couples spend so much energy and time and money on the wedding, but they forget about
Yeah,
planning the relationship or planning the rest of their marriage. It's like, so I think it's wise for people to not put so much pressure on that one day and think more about
absolutely.
the relationship holistically.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that because it is as people say, a Hallmark holiday. It's love should be expressed all year round. I don't want to sound too hippity dippity to anybody, but I mean it's one of those things where we should be able to express our appreciation and care for each other on a regular basis. And another little fun fact, teachers are actually the #1 receiver of Valentines.
Good. I
They
like
do
that.
receive.
That's a good one.
Yes.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
I
that
teachers
makes me
teachers
happy.
deserve all the love they can get because they have a thankless job in many, many, many instances. So yes.
I agree. I agree. So we need to do that. And I
Like
think
a teacher.
one
Like a teacher.
hug a teacher. Let them know you're about to hug them.
Yeah. It's not an attack.
I also think that people should know, just because it is Valentine's Day, it does not mean a ticket for sex.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people think because it's Valentine's Day, I took her to a nice dinner. This is what she owes me. It is not. Don't feel like you ever owe somebody that, because that is, you know, people need to start respecting their bodies more and understanding the treasure that they have. And, you know,
100%.
If
100%.
you I if you're not just
No
gonna give
means
a
no,
dollar to
right?
anybody, you shouldn't be giving your body to just anybody either.
Yeah, no means no, right?
No means no. That's right.
100%. Well, on
Yeah.
that note, I will say that it's time for us to unfortunately say goodbye for now. But I really want to do a little bit more of a deeper dive into some of the stress techniques and stress relief techniques and how they can be applied, you know, one-on-one to individuals, but also how those types of techniques can be implemented in organizations. Because I think organizations need to teach these things to their people. I think if management was more active in teaching it to their people, that they might actually learn it and apply it better, not only in their organizations, but personally as well. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done in that regard.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And my talk in Houston is gonna be about putting on your own oxygen mask first. So,
Ah,
you know, make
yes.
sure they come out and join me. But I would love to come back and talk more about stress and in the workspace.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Tips from Tia. You're going to see all the links, and please feel free to jump on and mention that you heard about it from Lead Like a Boss. Thanks for coming, and I look forward to our next Lead Like a Boss episode, Tia.
Thank you, George.